Hey guys, welcome back to the Ghost and Fringe YouTube channel. Once again, joined by my good friend Dave Myrick. How are we doing today, Dave?
I'm good, Cord. As we were just talking before we started, man, it's kind of a nasty, funky, cloudy, rainy day where nothing really sounds good except talking college football with you, man. How are things on your end?
All good, man. Yeah, same thing down here. A lot of wind, a little bit of rain. Starting to feel more like fall, just a hair. And usually in Texas, it normally is mid to late November before we start really feeling it. So feeling a little more like college football.
Yeah, I have to tell you, doing high school football up here in the month of September, dude, in these booths that don't have AC, it can kick your ass. But getting to this time of year, yeah, this is a lot better. I need hot chocolate and hoodies for football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a hoodie almost year round type of guy, anyways, which is pretty hard to pull off down here during the summer. But yeah, I like when I can do it and people don't look at me like I'm crazy. So
Right.
glad to have a little bit of cooler weather. I think we've got highs of mid 70s down here all week. A nice change of pace, no doubt, because like you said, September high school football, September college football, a little bit of an ass kicking. It is. It is.
Yeah, man. I don't know if Dallas has like forgotten what the hell a cloudy day is, but if we could have one for OU Texas, just one, that's all I'm asking for. I'll take it because I mean, for like 20 straight years, it's been 95 and disgustingly hot. So, anyway, enough about the weather, man. Let's jump into it. What do you want to fire away and ask? You're having a great season. Oklahoma, who I cover and talk about, is not. So, what's on your mind about the Sooners?
Well, 5-5 Oklahoma sitting with an Alabama and LSU finish. Let's talk a little about those two games first before we kind of get into the big offseason you guys are likely about to have. Alabama comes to Norman, Oklahoma. You've got a prime time slot for a kickoff against a top five opponent. What are the vibes around? Well, it's Alabama. I don't know if they're top five. They're not top five, but top 10 opponent.
Yeah.
And so, what are the vibes around Norman, Oklahoma? Is there a path to victory? And just overall, how excited are you to have a program like the Alabama Crimson Tide coming into Memorial Stadium?
Cord, I think this is, when the move to the SEC was announced, this is what got people fired up. Were games like this. You got the big Alabama Crimson Tide coming to town. It's not the only time it's happened. They came in, I think, in 01, and then Oklahoma went there in 02. But of course, not conference foes. Now, being in the same conference, it's different. Now, the excitement has waned with how Oklahoma has not looked on the field this year. I think they were in a spot against Missouri, week before last, where if they can get that win and go into a bye week last week with some confidence, that would have been on the heels of a Maine win and then a pretty decent showing at Ole Miss, a team that has shown to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Things start to look better. That they do, and I think you could start to feel some momentum heading down the stretch here with OU. That died in Columbia, the way Oklahoma gave that game away in embarrassing fashion. Follies across the board on both sides of the ball. And now the vibes are there's no chance. It's kind of incredible to see a coach and a program at Oklahoma judged on the losses they have upcoming. If it's competitive, it might be a good thing, for the end of the season. If it's a blowout, it might not. And that's where we're at with this OU football team. It's just a matter of hoping to not get blown out on your home field. It's staggering to watch the fall of this program.
Ideally, if you're a Sooner fan, you go in there, you compete on Saturday. The environment's great. I'm assuming your fans will show up. Oklahoma, you have a lot of pride in the program, a lot of pride in the fan base. I have no doubt you create a very, an elite game day environment. Welcoming, friendly, in a friendly manner, welcoming the Crimson Tide to town. And ideally, you hang in that game, you play them tight. It's college football. You never know what can happen out there. Absolutely, coming off a bye week, of course. A lot of people have been telling Alabama how good they are the last couple of weeks, coming off a big win versus LSU. Now they didn't have a bye week, but they didn't really have to trot out a lot of cats out there to take care of old Mercer last week at Bryant, did he? But you look at that LSU game, and maybe a game that 3 weeks ago appeared to be a lot more difficult on paper has lightened up a lot. LSU is struggling in a bit of a free for all, losers of 3 straight games. So going to that, I mean, you do have that in your back pocket. You can still find a 6 win, find bowl eligibility. Alabama, I'm assuming, will be very tough. DeBoer, Jalen Milroe, now against that defense, that'll be a fun matchup, man. Like I said, just a lot of pride in that defense, a lot of veteran leadership, experience, talent. The defense is, it's not normally your issue up there. And so I'm curious to watch that offense of Alabama versus that defense and see how that looks. And then Alabama has been susceptible to giving up plays in the passing game. And Jackson Arnold's not afraid to fling that football downfield. So I know a lot of people naturally just write that game off as a loss for Oklahoma. I've seen some Sooners on the Twitter timeline doing the same. And I get it, man. Absolutely. But I don't think it would take much, to get those guys kind of believing on Saturday night. If you guys are hanging around, halfway through the second quarter, maybe it's a field goal game at half. But honestly, Dave, what are your expectations there?
You just painted a path to have hope for the game. And look, I'm not nuanced to college football. I've seen upsets happen. Oklahoma talent's not the problem. All right, they got talent on this roster, top to bottom. It's evident. I thought that they were the more talented team on the field at Columbia. They jumped off the field in a lot of areas. Just poor decision making, inexcusable, undisciplined play led to the loss. If they can cut that out at home, get that crowd behind them, and start to have some belief both on the sideline, in the building that they can do it, and Memorial Stadium gets rocking the more, late into the night it goes, good things could happen. I think Oklahoma has to get Javonte Barnes back in the fold, run the football, something they did not do in Columbia, something that everybody in the world thought they would after Missouri gave up 250 to Alabama, 250 to A&M. Oklahoma comes out the first play of the game with an 8-yard run to Taylor Tatum and then tries, the drop back passing game, which has not been there all year because they can't block it.
Right.
When they can, they've got no one to throw to. Now, yes, they had Farouk and Burks back, but I mean, both those guys had missed, 5 and 6 weeks. How much of an impact can they really make? Well, the OU offensive staff was hoping a lot and know that they didn't have much of an impact, and the offensive line still struggled to pass block. So come out against Alabama, run the football, establish that, take pressure off Jackson Arnold. I've been saying that since the first week of the season when I thought that's what the game plan would be. Let this defense eat, try to play a possession game, keep the ball away from Milroe, pick up first downs, milk the clock, and good things can happen. But what I have to go back to is that hadn't happened all season. So I'm not really expecting a light switch to go on and this to happen against a top 10 Alabama squad that probably has more talent than anybody in the country, maybe save Georgia. So I don't really see a way Oklahoma wins this game, but I get your point to if they can muddy it up enough and make it a game going into the half, interesting things could happen.
No doubt. And that's not my expectation as far as predicting a Sooner win. If for you guys, I would hope to play, a 1-score game, maybe a late field goal touchdown pushes it to 10, 13 points. Give yourself something to build on heading into LSU. Because Alabama is a damn good football team. And you want that 6th win. You want the extra practices. You want to get the young guys more reps, continue to let guys get healthy, and then go have a good showing in a bowl game. So I'm with you, man. It's going to be a really tough pull for you guys Saturday night. I will be watching. Of course, we'll all be watching. You never know what can happen in the game. But let's fast forward a little bit. The year ends. Brent Venables. Does Brent Venables get a year 4 in Norman, Oklahoma?
Let me jump back to one point here. It does look like LSU is going to be the more winnable of the 2 games upcoming, and making a bowl. I got into an argument on the OU postgame show on the franchise with a guy that said, bowls don't matter anymore. BS. Making a bowl is important. Oklahoma's made one for a quarter century straight. This would be the first time in 26 years they don't. So if you don't make one, that's a big deal. So that they need to try, with everything they have to get there. And that kind of leads to your question about year end. If they make a bowl and get a win to become bowl eligible, I think Brent is back, no questions asked, and he'll have a chance to rectify a really poor offensive coordinator hire.
Yep.
If they don't become bowl eligible and these last two games are embarrassing losses to the program, Court, I think things get interesting in Norman. There's a lot of talk about a potential buyout, but a lot of people, I guess, don't realize that does not have to be all at once, that they can, pay off a chunk right when it's announced and then the rest over time. And that would be very important if a decision is indeed made. But I think it's going to take a couple of, again, embarrassing losses to the program and really stains on the OU name for that to happen. As of right now, I see Brent coming back, and I can make cases for, look, if I met a guy at a bar having a beer with him and he said Brent should be fired, I can't really argue with that. If he said that he deserves a chance to hire an OC and get one more, I can't really argue with that. I think right now there are more things against keeping Brent Venables than there are retaining him. The 10 wins last year is what kind of drew everybody in. It's what made believers out of people. But you have to kind of look at this in context. Oklahoma in the Big 12, same with Texas, was the more talented team 99% of the time when they would line up against these other squads.
Yep.
The three losses to Kansas, Oklahoma State, and Arizona, all very similar. Turnover problems. The defense could not get a stop down the stretch to win games. And that's kind of the area that, Brent likes to hang his hat on, and his defenders like to say, well, look at the defense. Well, in those three losses, they couldn't get stops. Against Missouri, they couldn't get a stop. Has he done a great job turning the defense around? Absolutely. But to those who say, look, he's done his job, he's fixed the defense, I got news for you. Your job as head coach is to win football games, not fix defenses. So it's pretty much a matter of how Oklahoma loses the last two games. That sounds incredible to say, but that's going to determine a lot about what does or does not happen when this is over.
You number one YouTuber, clarify for me. What are you saying would kill the program? I'm not trying to be rude or twist the knife in any way. What comment were you?
Yeah, I don't get that.
Commenting on right here, just for clarification, so we know how to address it there. I've shared with you my opinions. I've shared with you my thoughts on what I think Oklahoma should do or would do if I was in charge of things, which I will never be in charge of an athletic program, but fun to play GM every now and then,
What a shame.
I personally, I've seen much better days for Oklahoma. I don't like the way things are trending for you guys. Like you said, a lot of these losses are very similar. And a lot of them, the common theme is just sloppiness, little things that I am not accustomed to seeing out of Oklahoma. Now, referencing the buyout, Dave commented on it a little bit. Fancy, you asked a question about Oklahoma affording a buyout. From what I have heard from the few Sooners that I speak to about this, is that it would be half up front, and then, as Dave said, you pay out the rest, over time. I do not know the financial situation at Oklahoma. I do not know if that is a thing that's, that would give them pause in making a move. But they found a way to collect their exit fee buyout for the Big 12, even though there was a lot of, speculation, Twitter rumors that was not going to happen. I don't have a doubt that Oklahoma would, be able to pony up the money and find pass that hat, find the money, and be able to pay that half that buyout. That's all they would need up front. I would move on, Dave. For me, it's not anything personal towards Brent Venables. It's not personal towards Oklahoma. It's just the little things, man. And as a guy that watched Charlie Strong at Texas, a guy that watched Tom Herman at Texas, I started to, believe I could see and recognize the cracks a little bit better or a little bit earlier than I would have before. And hey, as a Texas fan, selfishly, I kind of hope Brent Venables hangs out for a while. But then again, you made the comment, and he has a chance to rectify that abysmal OC hire. He has proven he can go out and make a big time OC hire. Jeff Lebby was a home run hire. Jeff Lebby had that offense clicking, and for me, he has to do the same thing. And then, as I mentioned to you before, if he's there, it's like, you go handle defense, Brent. you trust and let whoever you hire handle that offense, and you just stay out of the way. I know that it's hard, like we talked about before. You look at Jimbo Fisher hiring Bobby Petrino. They still did everything Jimbo Fisher wanted to do, everything Jimbo Fisher, all of his concept schemes. It was still Jimbo's offense. And now that's just one example. There's a several more, but is he capable of passing the reins, staying out of the way, and letting this OC hire? Because it's going to be, I mean, everybody is going to have big time eyes on this Oklahoma hire or this Oklahoma OC hire if Brent Venables is still around, of course. Is he capable of passing the reins, just staying out of the way and letting an OC cook?
You know, from what I've, kind of gathered and heard, I don't think him meddling in the offense has been the issue. I think a lack of concern for the offense has
Right.
been more than just an outright kind of negligence approach to I'm solely going to get this defense fixed. To hell with what I mean. That's me, of course, using different verbiage, just coming from me personally, from what it looks like. To hell with the offense. So I don't think that's been the issue. I think why it worked with Jeff Lebby is because he understood he has a system. He came to Oklahoma with it. He got a quarterback to run it, and Dylan Gabriel that was familiar with it. Of course, they had been together on a different staff and team, but now the disconnect is so deep on the offensive side of the football with what they want to be, who they're trying to be. You still, I mean, 10 games into the season, have no idea really what the identity of this offense is. And that speaks to preseason exactly what was going on. And then you start looking at you judging personnel and your player evaluations. You get Xavier Robinson finally on the field against an SEC defense on the road. He's the best player on OU's offense by far. Where's this guy been all season long? So who's determining that, the rotations at certain spots? How are we seeing this in practice and keeping this guy on the shelf to run out a senior that is not getting it done in conference play? It's just kind of an all around jumbled mess, when you look at this offense. And I think that's where an OC of any name that's having success right now is going to have a moment of pause if it indeed is Brent Venables coming back and he says, all right, I want you to come get this thing fixed with the schedule Oklahoma has next year, which does not get any easier. It's the exact same thing as this year, just flipped. So again, that's, if you're in a good spot as an OC, that's kind of a tough risk to take for possibly a lame duck coach. So, man, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the little things, and you were the one that reminded me when I was kind of defending Brent, saying he's had 3 top 10 recruiting classes. He at least gets talent. You said, well, Charlie Strong had talent at Texas, always good recruiting classes, and that didn't work. So if Oklahoma decided to rip the Band-Aid off, do I think that would probably be best for the long term of the program? Yes, I do. And I have to say it just from my belief of watching a lot of college football and understanding programs that try to go too long with something that clearly is not looking like it's going the right direction. That doesn't end well. It usually takes decades plus to recover from. So if they rip the Band-Aid off and decide to go a different direction, I can't blame them. If you move on, who do you get? BV has sucked offensively, but he's still a big name. That's a good question. You're Oklahoma. You've got money to spend, obviously, and a big name in the SEC is a blue blood. I think they probably, they could pick who they wanted to, I think, and have a pretty good shot at bringing them in. There's a lot of people that would probably like to be head coach at Oklahoma. So I coming up with just a name off the top of my head, Glenn Schumann down at Georgia is doing pretty good things on the defensive side. I'm not sure if they go with the defensive guy after Brent. Pete Golding at Ole Miss is another DC that has a good track record, and he's had some sniffing around OU back in the day with Lincoln Riley. So, yeah, I don't know, but they could go after somebody and probably reel in a pretty good head coach if they wanted to do so.
There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. I mean, you go back into, um, since what, 99 when Bob Stoops was hired, Joe C knows what he's doing as an athletic director. He's been around the program, or he's been around Oklahoma and that campus for a very, very long time. He makes very competent hires in almost every single sport. And what I've noticed is that He's not afraid. Now, yes, there's the potential that you did pass on a Dan Lanning for a defensive coordinator, a lifetime defensive coordinator, and Brent Venables. That spent a lot of time. That defensive coordinator spent a lot of time in Norman, Oklahoma. So I'm giving Joe C and them a pass on Brent Venables, making that comfort hire. Now, for me, and trying to help out number one YouTuber here, I don't have a name either. But as Dave just said, I like what Dave just said. Dave just said Glenn Schumann. Dave said a guy who, yeah, he's a young coach. He's only been at DC, but he's not a big time head coaching. He wouldn't be on a top 5 list if you're talking about head coaches who have accomplished things over the last 10, 15 years, like A&M hiring a Jimbo Fisher.
Right.
And I hate to continue to use that reference. It's just such a great one to use, especially since it didn't pan out. But by name alone, A&M felt they were guaranteed, New York 6 bowl games, which they made one and won one, national titles. They thought that was inevitable. And so I try not to get sucked into the big name hires, into no one thought Tom Herman would fail. Everybody, yes, he was maybe not a massively big name at the time, but he was coveted by many. And he had won games at Houston. He had won games when he's an OC at Ohio State, which they had Urban Meyer and top 5 recruiting class year in after year. And so, yeah, they were going to win. But I try not to get sucked in. And that would be my advice to you, buddy, is to try not to fall for the hoopla of a big name. Chip Kelly went to UCLA. That was a big-time hire for UCLA with a big-time name. That didn't work out.
Right.
This is just part of it. Sorry, I have to charge this thing or plug this charger in.
You're good, man. I'll jump in while you're charging your jazz there. A guy like Schumann I like, and I liked Lanning coming out of Georgia too, because these guys have kind of a Nick Saban, Kirby Smart background. And to me, they've been around what it takes to win national championships. Yes, Brent did too at Clemson, but these guys are young and hungry, and they have not tasted that amount of success at the very top yet. You give them something like an Oklahoma job that, it's a top 5, top 10 job in college football with the resources they have and being in the SEC already. Schumann's already tied in the SEC. So is a guy like Pete Golding. I like something like that. And I hate the thought that, well, no, they won't give another, head coaching spot to a defensive guy because Brent didn't work. That has nothing to do with, my thought process on this. One guy doesn't dictate the next. So I would love something like a Glenn Schumann hire, and that's getting ahead of myself if OU were to do something. But what Schumann would have to do is what Brent didn't, of course, after Jeff Lebby, and that is get somebody equally good to run the offense. You don't hire somebody because they have ties to your school, or you're a buddy with them.
System that your quarterback might want to run.
Yeah, that too. You don't do that stuff. You go out, if you're Oklahoma, if you're Texas, if you're Ohio State, and you get the best name out there to come in and run your offense. That wasn't done this offseason, and that's why Oklahoma is where they are right now.
I mean, you're right. There is no identity on that offense. A lot of sloppiness. There's penalties. There's turnovers. Everything, all the recipes for struggles on the offensive side of the football. And after watching you guys with Lincoln Riley for so long and trotting out, since Josh Heupel. I can think of 5 or 6 Oklahoma quarterbacks who just elite college players. And it's just really odd to see you guys struggle on the the offensive side rather than the defensive side as you did under Lincoln Riley. But, you do have to credit. I'm saying I would move on from Venables, but he has improved that defense tremendously.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, did a great job in getting Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman to return to Oklahoma for this year to provide that leadership, provide experience, and to kind of, make sure that defense had its nucleus, and it's a good unit. They've given up a little bit in the pass game at times, but he has improved that defense. And so, I'm not here, and even for any Sooners listening or that might listen down the line, and Texas fans in here in the chat, if you're unfamiliar with my good friend Dave, for one, you should follow him on Twitter, Danny Big Mac. Great follow. But coming into the season, Danny was high on this Oklahoma team. Or Dave was high on this Oklahoma team. He had faith in Brent Venables in this defense. He thought this offensive line would be much better than it was. And I'm not twisting the knife on my friend Dave because his team didn't end up panning out the way he thought it would. But he sees the same thing that we're seeing. So when he's saying ultimately at the end of the day, he probably would rip that band-aid and go ahead and make that big time hire or big time coaching change. It's not just because things are going bad. He sees what he sees and he comments on it. And they were rolling after Jeff Lebby and Dylan Gabriel, and that offense looked good. It's hard to imagine in any world that they could regress this much in 1 year. Now, obviously, it's not all the same players, so you can't just sit there and say it's not fair to say maybe regress. It's a different offense, a different offensive scheme. But going forward, Dave, coaching change or no coaching change, OC hire, that's inevitable. Is Jackson Arnold, is 11 the guy for Oklahoma?
Yeah, Cord, and that's a good segue. I was down at SEC Media Days and got an SEC media vote for the preseason poll, and I'm not ashamed to admit I put Oklahoma ahead of Texas, judging on what I saw at the end of last season, and that was a 10-win team that had got Stutzman and Bowman back, and the track record under Bill Bedenbaugh and what he's done with the O-line, and what I saw to Jackson Arnold in the bowl game. Look, that's still there. I mean, I saw this guy against Arizona with a patchwork offensive line make, layer throws over cornerbacks in front of safeties. I saw him hit dots on the run, dead sprint to his offhand, the wrong side of the field to throw from. So it just didn't disappear in this guy. He has lost it up here mentally. He's lost his confidence. And I think when you don't have an identity on offense, especially a run game, to lean on as a young quarterback, that's what you see. And in this league, it provides no margin for error. That there's nowhere to take a breath, so to speak. So I think we've just seen that go downhill. So a long way to answer your question, I still have faith in Jackson Arnold that he can be a very good college quarterback at Oklahoma, but it's going to have to take the right hire on the offensive side of the football, to keep him in the building. I mean, let's not forget this guy was benched, for the next best thing that didn't pan out, and it had no shot of panning out. Is true freshmen that, were in high school a year ago seldom work in big time college football. They tried it, didn't work, and it was, oh, sorry, Jackson, our bad, you're back in there. So does he even want to stay? There's going to be some conversations, that have to be had when this thing is over. But that's where I go back to, if Brent Venables stays and they hire an OC, it's going to have to be a name that gets people in that building excited to stick around and play for this guy. It's going to have to be a name that recruits here and they're excited to stick with their commitment and come play for this guy. A name that transfers here and they're stoked to transfer in and play for this guy. So
right.
This is going to be a gigantic hire if it is in fact Brent Venables back for year 4, heading into this thing, and that's going to determine if Jackson Arnold stays or doesn't. I think the talent's still there with Jackson. He just has to get back in some semblance of a system that's comfortable for him, an offensive line that can protect past 2 seconds, wide receivers that can actually get open and catch the ball, and a run game that works. And I think you'll see a different quarterback. Yes, I think he still is very capable of leading Oklahoma to wins in the SEC.
And it probably goes a long way if you don't have 5-6 wide receivers, your top 5-6 wide receivers on the depth chart, out for over half the year.
Yeah, let me answer that though, man. I mean, these guys have been taking first team reps now for 2 months. That excuse to me is dead. I'm tired of hearing it. Somebody has to emerge. You have to see some development somewhere on any position on the offense, and you haven't. You've seen, in fact, a regression. I would say the run game and Javonte Barnes is maybe the one area you look to the last month that's gotten a little bit better. But besides that, there is just no improvement across the board on any area of this offense, quarterback included.
I like Jackson Arnold. I really do. I think that, as you said, with the right coaches around him, he's got a lot of the intangibles, the raw talent that he can be a good player. I do have to disagree with you. Number one YouTuber, I can't say that he's on the level of a Garrett Gilbert. I got to see that firsthand.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Completely different world of quarterbacks. And now, does Jackson Arnold have a lot to figure out, a lot to work on? Absolutely. But your scheme, the talent around you, your offensive line, the whatever is going on in the wide receiver room, those all go hand in hand with the quarterback's play. and so he's not going to look great when you can never protect the guy, when the receivers are never on the field that need to be on the field. And when they're on the field, they're not catching the football. They've mentioned no run game. They haven't had a run game. That makes a lot of things really difficult on a quarterback. Puts a lot of pressure on them to make every single play when they have that opportunity. Uh, Being a quarterback, you played a little quarterback too, right, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we both did. Not a lot of fun playing third and long on every single time you have a third down rolling up. You've got 3rd and 8. Defense has got their ears pinned back, and I know you can't block anybody. You know that your wide receivers can't create separation. You're going to get knocked around a little bit. He's a great athlete. Can use his legs. It's very, in my opinion, I think it's beyond important these days to use your legs, to have that +1 in the offense and let them be a part of it. I would disagree here. Michael Hawkins is not ready as a passer. Nowhere close.
No,
And
I'm just reading this. What do you think about letting both QBs play the last? I hate that. I think look, because what you just said, Michael Hawkins, this is not fair to him. It was not fair to throw him in the fire of an SEC schedule when he is clearly just not ready. He deserves to have a year like Jackson got last year to learn the game of college football. So I don't like that at all. I think right now Jackson Arnold is your guy, and you're trying to kind of build some momentum going into next year and try to let him develop a little bit. Now, I will say this to that. We've made excuses for Jackson. You have to be better. You can't turn the ball over. You can't sit there in the pocket, count after count after count when you know you can't protect. Get rid of the ball. If you do take a sack, if you do decide to run it, protect the ball. He has not done those things. He's been awful at those things. So he has a lot of areas he can improve on and needs to if he wants to be the quarterback. But in my opinion, it's not fair to a guy like Mike Hawkins to say, all right, here you go, Alabama, LSU, one of the others yours, have at it, because he's just not ready yet.
And as we just talked about, both of us have mentioned, you're not going to protect the guy in the passing game. There is no really run game. They can still key on Michael Hawkins in the run game. He's a tremendous athlete. Don't get me wrong. He's fun to watch in the open field, but he's not going to be getting opportunities to get in the open field against good defenses because there's not enough threats elsewhere on your offense. And so much easier to key on that to eliminate his legs in a game like that. And plus, if I'm playing Oklahoma with Michael Hawkins at quarterback, I'm going to do the same thing Texas did, and I'm going to send 6 or 7 guys on every single snap, dare you to beat us one-on-one in the passing game, which you've not shown you can really do consistently. So for me, if I'm you guys, I feel pretty sure Dave feels the same way. If you're going to get that 6th win, if you're going to get some extra reps with the bowl practices and whatnot, and have a chance to go win a bowl game, get a bowl trophy, get a little bit of a momentum going. I don't care. I still love bowl games. Okay. I think that they can be used for certain programs. Okay. Not every program every season, but for certain programs, I think they can be used as springboards into the next season. You've got a team like Washington in 2022 playing Texas in the 2022 Alamo Bowl. This is a Washington team that got hot towards the end of the year. We're looking to win their 9th or 10th game of no, what they lost twice that year. They're looking to win their 11th game of the year. And they parlay, and I'm not saying that they made the college football national championship game last year because they beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl.
It's a good springboard, yeah.
Just another little springboard, another little boost, another little, hey, look at what we're doing, look at who we are. And so I think that it has to be Jackson Arnold in the last 2 weeks of the season. I think that that's the only way, the only move that you can make.
Yeah, and I just wanted to. We have receivers open every game. Arnold can't. Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, look. He's at a point, and again, this is not to make excuses for the guy, but I think I read a couple weeks ago Jackson Arnold is the 2nd most sacked quarterback in college football, and he missed 3 games. Okay, so that lends me to believe that he is just getting rattled, and he's. Again, we talk about Hawkins being young. So is Jackson Arnold. I think he's made 8 starts in college football. So he's lost it. He's lost, any type of confidence he had. So if he's not seeing him down the field, he's not. He's not in a good place right now. He needs a total overhaul of this offense, someone to help him install a system he's comfortable with and block it up and all that crap. So, no, I agree with you. He needs to play a lot better. But I'm with you, Cord. If Oklahoma has any shot to win, it has to be Jackson Arnold playing the last 2 games.
Absolutely. And Josh, this is a good comment. Thanks for being here, man. You always provide great insight. Number one, you too, thank you for being active in the comments. Anybody else out there watching, y'all hop in the chat. Let us know what you think and feel about the Oklahoma Sooners, what they should do as far as Brent Venables. Is Jackson Arnold the guy? Get in there and we'll answer some questions if you have any. Also, guys, throw a quick like on this video for Dave. He always does a great job when he comes on. He's a good friend. We talk a lot. Love having him on. So do me that quick favor. Throw a like on for him. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. We are, I think, a handful of subs away from the 500 mark. But Josh says bowl games can be important for middling programs who are trying to break out, gain momentum, young teams. And that's my point, man. Young coaches like a Shane Beamer. That is a guy to me who, like, I know that he just cares so dang much about a bowl game after a season where he went 7-5.
Right.
Because he's thinking that same thing. Some of these teams, like a South Carolina, like a Mississippi State, like a Kansas State, like whoever, they're still using these bowl games for recruiting purposes. You got Kansas State playing a Mississippi State, beating a Mississippi State, an SEC team. And what are they going to do? They're going to hop in there to those recruits and they're going to talk about, hey, man, we just took down an SEC team. And so sorry for the long talk about bowl games and their relevance. I still think they're very important. I know that the holdouts and a lot of other things, maybe some of them don't have the same lore. But to me, I think they're very important as far as programs and moving on as far as getting ready for the next season. So I think it's incredibly important for Oklahoma to find that 6th win. But okay, Dave, here's a fun question. I've been kind of going through some names on my own. I'm curious to see if there are any on your mind. The OC hire. Is anybody jumping out at you? Do you have a name out there that would be your personal preference? Maybe you haven't heard it from anyone in your Sooner circles, but maybe that's just who you like. What you got for me there?
Yeah, there's a couple names. I actually wrote an article on the franchise Oklahoma 1077. If anybody wants to check it out, talking about the OC hire. A couple names: Joe Craddock down at Tulane is kind of a hot name. What he's got with Darian Mensah, I think, is kind of lightning in a bottle. Outside of a couple years' success with Morris at SMU, there's not really the sustained track record of success with Craddock. He's been a 1-year rental each of the last 4 years after, being dismissed at Arkansas with Morris. So that one I'm kind of iffy on. Others, of course, Shanahan with Cignetti up at Indiana. He's kind of the hot button name, but what is he without Cignetti? These guys have been together for like 8 years. Does he leave Cignetti, who just got a massive extension? So you've got issues there. A name that, I just tweeted out like 3 weeks ago is kind of a joke. I just kind of wanted to get the feel of OU fans, and I got like 500 replies, and it was split right down the middle, was Dan Mullen, cooling his heels as an ESPN analyst. Of course, really good success as an OC with Urban Meyer at Utah with Alex Smith, and then what he did with Tim Tebow at Florida, and kind of got the luster knocked off his name as a head coach, even though he took Mississippi State with Dak Prescott to the #1 team in the country at one point.
Yeah.
But then he goes to Florida, and Florida, they've had some internal issues over the last decade plus that I think made winning there hard, but he didn't do himself any favors as a head coach. Got fired, I think, in 21 with a 5-6 record. And since then, yeah, he's just been a color dude for ESPN. But he knows offense. He has a system. He's worked and won in the SEC, still has plenty of ties. So that, to me, would be a name to really keep an eye on if you're an Oklahoma fan, as far as maybe something is announced. We'll wait for Oklahoma to do that, but I would be stunned if that is not their A1 guy they are going after as we speak.
I did talk a little bit with my panel yesterday on the Texas and Arkansas post-game show. Any Longhorns in the comments, if you've not watched that, go check it out. It's always fun with Nash and Peyton. But I saw the picture of Brent Venables, Dan Mullen, Barry Switzer. And just for me, that's all I need to see to think that, hey, that is probably a potential target down the line. Now, here's the thing on Dan Mullen. I like Dan Mullen as a coach. I think he's a great offensive mind. And to play devil's advocate, the man has not coached since 2018. He was not much of a recruiter when he was at the University of Florida. But then again, you have the NIL era. You have the brand of Oklahoma. You are going to recruit yourself. You are going to have top 10 classes. I like Dan Mullen. I think he was wrongly fired at Florida. I'm very curious to see if that is the hire and how it would work out. Just for the reason I said, he hasn't coached in 6 seasons. He's done a great job as a color guy. Knows ball, obviously. long track record in the SEC, did great things, like you said, at Mississippi State. All they had to do was win that dang Egg Bowl, man, and the SEC title, and they're going to go play for a championship at Mississippi State. And didn't work out that way for them. But I mean, Dan Mullen knows ball. A lot of skins on the wall. Um, Great connections, obviously. No doubt that he would bring in, or help bring in a pretty dang good offensive coaching staff with him. I'm sure he'd have a guy or two. But let me ask you this, sir, and this is not to step on any toes. Is Bill Bedenbaugh past his prime? Is he starting to get to the point of where it might be starting to, the Sooners should start looking for another guy to run those offensive lines? And this is not me feeling a certain way about it. This is just me asking you, a ball knower, how you feel about Coach B.
No, absolutely not. He is one of the best in the business. He needs to have as much support for his line as there is for the defensive line, and I will leave it at that. But no, he's still one of the best around. He needs some help in getting guys and retaining guys. And when he's got the right pieces to work with, he is still one of the best in the business. No, I think he stays. I think this year has been an eye opener that you have to you're going to have to spread your resources around a little bit and your time and where you spend it in all areas of your team, not just a couple, to be successful in this league. So if that happens, and with a guy like Dan Mullen, I think it would have to, because he would demand a certain amount of respect on that side of the football. No, you keep Bill Bedenbaugh, but I've seen some other comments about DeMarco Murray saying he's an elite recruiter but can't really develop. I can't argue with that. I haven't really seen any running back under Murray's tutelage take the next step and become elite. In fact, we've seen a couple guys almost regress under his watch, and some guys come in late that you scratch your head and say, where have they been? So if he were to take maybe an NFL job, and I'm hearing rumors that teams are interested in DeMarco Murray, I don't think a lot of people would be bothered by that. You've got some recruits out there that he has his hands on right now that you hope you could keep. But, if you can't, like you said, Oklahoma usually does pretty good recruiting running backs. I don't care who the coach is. So
Yep.
I think you keep Bedenbaugh, but if you decided to make moves elsewhere, I don't think a lot of people would be that disappointed.
More than fair, sir. I'm going to touch on both. First with DeMarco. I hated watching Texas play against that guy. What a stud.
Yeah.
Never forget seeing him take off down the sideline in the 07 game, outrunning Earl Thomas there, who had a pretty good angle. But I would feel very, very confident in saying that DeMarco will not be a part of the Oklahoma coaching staff next year. I feel really good about that. Just the little things that I hear, but also somewhat of maybe he goes to the league and goes to the NFL, but there's going to be a major offensive overhaul at Oklahoma. If anybody survives, it will be Coach Bill Bedenbaugh. This year is an outlier for him. You talk about what he's done, his track record. As Dave just said, he deserves the trust. He deserves the pass for 1 year. It's number one. You two were just commented. Bill Bedenbaugh knows ball. Okay, Texas fans are going to sit there and scream on Twitter like, "Yeah, he's past his prime. He's lost it." Every coach hits that point to where they just don't have the same output on the field from their unit. They don't have the same. They don't just maybe connect with the guys the same, or whatever it may be. Everybody is different. Bill has to stay. Bill has to be a part of the rehaul on offense, in my opinion. And I'm not going to say anything negative about DeMarco, but I do not think he will be around. I'll just say that. Dave made a comment earlier about allocating your resources properly. Go back and watch that if you kind of missed that. Read between the lines there. Dave actually says a pretty good bit right there. So go check that out. You got to have a good quarterback coach. Absolutely. In this day and age, all quarterbacks around are they're being trained up from the time most of them are in elementary school, junior high. These guys have elite tutelage, elite training, but that can't stop when you get to the collegiate level. They have to be ready and to continue to grow as players. And it's just wild watching Oklahoma right now compared to the offenses you've had in the past. For me, Dave, if you hired Dan Mullen, I would not like that. I'll be honest with you. It would give me a little bit of pause as a Texas fan. I say that as a Texas fan. For you guys, I think that would be a pretty competent hire.
Okay.
I would have a little pause about showing up, to what most times is the second Saturday in October, and Dan Mullen being in the other box. that would be a big time hire. But now let me be honest with you. If he is paired with a Brent Venables, that fear would go down significantly. Um, and that's not to knock Brent. It's just
Gotcha.
it's really not. It's
Yeah.
just, as you said, there is a lot going on around there right now. And for me, maybe you make a head coaching hire, and you say, "Hey, we got this OC kind of make sure the head coaching hire is cool with it. Of course, you don't want to have another odd scenario, but Joe John Finley, I mean, like, it was kind of odd to see him get promoted this year.
Yeah.
That was a head scratcher. I have to say I was pretty lost on that one. I almost thought I had dust in my eyes and wasn't reading that headline correctly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you weren't alone, man. I mean, the week after Texas did a show, and my co-host was like, "You have to make a move and fire Seth Luttrell and get someone to call the offense." That, of course, won't be Joe John Finley, and we just dismissed it out of hand. Like, well, of course not. He's in charge of the worst room on the OU offense, and that's a mouthful with the tight ends. They've been woefully awful in all areas this year, and sure enough, he's promoted to be the play caller with Kevin Johns, who was kind of an analyst from Duke. And I kind of liked, I won't say I thought, whoa, it's night and day. Finley's got the magic wand, but I kind of liked what he did against Ole Miss. And then Maine, they're a high school team. You can't really count much, but he at least stuck to a run game.
Right.
That if there's one area Oklahoma's had any success at all, minute, it's been a little bit of the run game. And then they go to Missouri in a must-win game, the most important game in the BB tenure, and go away from the run game against a bad run D. It was like Seth, kicked him out of the booth and climbed back in and was calling plays. So, yeah, I don't know where Joe John Finley goes. It's not going to be Norman, Oklahoma next year.
Yeah. No, I think, again, there will be a major rehaul on the offensive side. I'm trying to think of a name as far as a head coaching hire that would absolutely scare me. I saw your comment, and there are multiple names out there that, because what Oklahoma does on the football field directly affects Texas. This is why I care about Oklahoma football. I care about Texas A&M football. Half of the SEC now, I mean, getting more into the Southeastern Conference has been fun, but what OU does, what Texas does directly affects one another, both on the field, and then in recruiting as well, of course. And so, yeah, I think almost daily about, hey, who would Oklahoma look after? Who do they go towards? And I could think of a handful of names where I would be like, damn, that is, Brent Venables, being honest, was just not one of those guys for me. Lincoln Riley, to be fair, was not even one of those guys for me because I just didn't know what he would do on the defensive side. I didn't know what he would do past script Riley. He was so damn good in the first quarter of games. And then some bad Texas teams normally played pretty well second quarter and the second halves of those games, except for one time we took the bait against Mark Andrews late there in 2017. Lincoln got us with a double move, but hey, it happens, okay? But handful of names out there. I know Kurt Signetti just got a massive raise at Indiana. If he is still in Indiana Hoosier next year, good for him. I would be impressed, but also very surprised. That would be a name that would give me a lot of pause as far as thinking about that matchup in the future. Another name, I mean, if you were to take a Glenn Schumann, that is going to be a name that probably more than most, which he has no track record as a head coach. So people are, you're scared of Glenn Schumann? No, I'm not scared of Glenn Schumann, but I damn well know Glenn Schumann would have Oklahoma playing very, very damn good defense. And I also have a little bit of PTSD from seeing some of the fronts and looks and disguises that he gave Texas back on October 19th when Georgia came to Austin.
Yeah.
Still think about that one. That was, as a former offensive coordinator, that was nightmare fuel. And so that would be a very interesting and fun hire for Oklahoma there. Thanks for checking in, number one YouTuber. You have a good rest of your day, brother, man.
Thanks, buddy.
But, yeah, I mean, you have a handful of names, Dave, a couple names that you might prefer or want if a move were to go down, if these last couple weeks go very, very south for Brent Venables. Who jumps out for you?
Look, I hate to keep circling back to it. I'm going to do it again. Glenn Schumann. Look, this isn't new to me. When Lincoln Riley ran off to USC in the middle of the night after he lost Bedlam and the head coaching job at OU was vacant, there were two names on my list I thought that OU should look at immediately. One was Dan Lanning. One was Glenn Schumann. They were co-DCs down at Athens under Kirby Smart. entrenched already in the conference Oklahoma was moving to. They're young, they're up and coming. They've worked for Nick Saban, now Kirby Smart. They have the lineage of what it takes to win in that league. And Oklahoma decides to bring back a guy that if OU fans are too young or too dumb to remember, they ran out of town back in 08 after it was a decent defensive season for Oklahoma, but they were clamoring to have Mike Stoops back and get rid of Brent. And that was the guy that everybody decided to make hashtags on social media for, and hashtag we got our guy. And it looked like the president and AD followed social media and made the popular hire. And here we are. But so that being said, I don't think they look at Glenn Schumann just because it makes too much sense from a football perspective. That there are things you hear like doesn't fit around culture and then not an OU guy. So if that is still the thought process, that's going to take OU down a very dark place. So that would be kind of my A1. 2 would be Shanahan from Indiana. You see what he's done with Cignetti. Maybe it's time he makes a move and sees, you see what he can do on his own with a team. He's got the tutelage being around the guy. He's seen what it takes to get Indiana to be undefeated 10 weeks into the season, which is an incredible comment to make. So you like that. Outside of that, the Kansas OC that went to Penn State, I can never, Cole Wiki or something like that. I can never remember the guy's freaking name, but you might see if he's ready to take on a head coaching job. There's not really that hot button name out there right now.
Right.
But yeah, those would be like 3 or 4 that, I would immediately jump to that OU would probably have on a short list. Maybe not. But look, if you want to put true serum in my arm right here, on November, whatever the hell it is, 18th, I guess, I think Brent Venables is back next year. And this OC hire, of course, is going to be the most important hire he's ever made.
Yep.
His hire that he made last year wasted 24. It threw it in the trash with guys like Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman coming back and sacrificing pretty decent draft grades to do so. You've wasted that. So now you have a shot to rectify some of that at least and have a better 24. The problem I have is, can you trust the right hire after what we've seen? There hasn't really been a whole lot to point to like, yeah, this guy just knocks out of the park with his hires. You bring in Ted Roof with you from Clemson, who was an off-the-field unpaid analyst at Clemson, a volunteer, to be the DC at Oklahoma, getting ready to go to the SEC. That's who you bring in. Of course, he was fired last year, and he goes and gets his clone from Jacksonville State that's doing a much better job. But then again, year one SEC, the most important year in OU football history, in my opinion, you get a fired coach from North Texas. And that was my initial thought. He wasn't good enough to coach there. And that's who you're going to bring in to run your offense in this conference in the first year of it. And here we are. So I don't know if you trust the guy to make the right hire. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. If he's back, he needs to, if he wants to stick around past one more year in Norman.
And I'm not trying to be negative every time I talk about Oklahoma right now, Dave, but you have to, as you mentioned earlier, you have to wonder what OC is going to want to take that risk and hitch his wagon to Brent Venables to Oklahoma, knowing that it might just be a one-year journey. And so I'm going to be very interested to see how it plays out. Dave saying he believes Brent Venables ultimately will be back. He also said earlier in the show maybe we could reassess his thoughts after these last couple of games, depending on how they play out for Oklahoma. The OC hire is going to be massive, man. You can't sit and wait on it. I would be very shocked if Oklahoma has not been very, aggressive out there and, vetting and potentially searching for that OC hire. You got to stay on top of recruiting, man. And you got to get that offensive line rightened up. You got to get these receivers, this receiver room figured out. And like you said, you've got Farouk back, you've got Deion Burks back, you've had a bye week. You never know. I know we're being very negative right now. You never know what can happen right here in college football. And Oklahoma has a big chance to start rightening the ship, not in the offseason, but right now. You all of a sudden hang out with Alabama, go score 24 points, maybe you drop it by a field goal. That game looks impressive to other coaches. Other coaches see that and they're like, okay, maybe Oklahoma is garnering a little bit of momentum. Maybe they're figuring things out. Maybe it wouldn't be just a one-year journey. They go in there and play Alabama tight, beat LSU. all of a sudden things start to look a little bit different as you head into what's going to be a big off season. When it comes to portals, Dave, are we concerned about a lot of potential portaling for this current Sooners team? Um, you're going to lose a lot of players just because you've got a lot of upperclassmen on that team. But are you concerned there at all about the portal and it hitting Oklahoma hard?
Court, I think, and I hate to keep going back to this OC hire and how important it is, but I think a lot is going to be determined by what they do or don't do there. If it's a guy that players, that they're in their dorm playing foosball, whatever, and they get the notice on their phone, they're like, oh, damn, let's go. If it's that kind of a name, then no, I don't think it's going to be a mass exodus. If it's somebody that they pull up and they're like, really? Then yeah, I think you do see players hit the door on the defensive side. That is one thing with Zach Alley and Brent Venables. I think that side is very bought in, and a lot of guys are there because of Brent and the scheme he runs and then the passion he's got for that side of the football. So I don't foresee a lot of movement from the defensive side. I will say this to that. I've kind of the rebuttal I've gotten when, somebody says that if they fire Brent Venables, will say goodbye to all the defensive players they've got. Well, they're not winning games. So if they leave, they leave. You replace
That's
them
the
with,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's. I hate to be that way, but that's kind of the goal of this thing is to be to have more points than the other team when it hits triple zeros. That's not happening. So if that's the case, that's the case. You go out and restock and do the best you can. So that being said, I love the potential of guys like David Stone, Jaden Jackson, PJ Adebore, even though he plays at kind of weird spots and weird times. The Bowen brothers, they've got a lot of talent out there. And Lewis Carter at linebacker, I think, is going to be very good. Kobe McKenzie, Kip Lewis. So they got a chance to be pretty damn salty on defense next year, but they were this year and don't have a lot of wins to show for it. So I guess a long way to answer your question, there's a lot of factors to what's going to happen or not happen as far as players leaving Oklahoma. If they keep Brent, I think the defense is good. If they get a good OC, I think the offense is good. But they got some work to do bringing guys in the portal on top of who stays.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And the portal it's wild out there, man. You never know what can go down. Unfortunately, we do have other coaching staffs, maybe getting a little bit involved a little bit early, and so you never know what can really go down. But I'm with you in the thought that the OC hire is going to be very big as far as who you bring in, also who you retain on the team. And so we've spoken a lot about it, but it's like, as we said earlier, there's going to be a ton of eyes on the Oklahoma OC hire if it's only an OC hire.
Yeah, and again, man, so much can change if OU is embarrassed, if the program is just given a massive black eye these last 2 weeks of the season. They have to start weighing, going to donors and saying, hey, give us the same amount you just did with this product you're seeing on the field. Those donors are going to have a moment of pause. Like, well, I don't think I'm willing to pony up the same for what I'm seeing out there. So you have to start weighing what you're going to pony up right then and there to maybe make a move versus what you're going to lose in the upcoming years as far as income goes. And that's everything to season ticket holders saying, I'm not going to pay to watch this anymore because they lose every game at home. But so, yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting couple weeks. Again, I think that if OU's competitive, I don't see a whole lot of ways Brent is not back next year. But if it's just massively embarrassing, I wouldn't be surprised if they rip the Band-Aid off. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
If you were Las Vegas and you're looking at the 2025 Oklahoma Sooners, so you're led by Brent Venables, you have gone out and in your opinion, Dave, you've made a splashy OC hire or a competent OC hire, one that you personally believe in. Schedule is the same, as far as conference games go. Obviously, flip home and away. What are you placing the over/under win total at?
7.
7, fair, more than fair.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not expecting a miraculous 10-win turnaround and competing for playoffs. I think that it's gotten so bad on the offensive side of the ball. They're just so far away from a competent offense that it's going to take a little bit of time to get back to the 10-win mark. So, say everything goes like clockwork, the way it should for Oklahoma. Everything falls into place. You retain guys. Jackson Arnold develops a little bit. yeah, I'm going to put the over under at 7. And if they win more than that, it's a, ultimate success turnaround.
No, absolutely. I think that considering the schedule, considering where everyone else is at in the SEC, and seeing how they're kind of shaping up for for 2025 in the future, if you took a 7-5 team and they eclipse that mark and won 8 games, I mean, like that, I think that would be obviously trending in the right direction. You're still going to have Sooner fans that are like, this is not the standard, this is not what we signed up for.
Sure.
But this is the Southeastern Conference. There's a lot of damn good football teams. There's a lot of damn good coaches, and that's not changing anytime soon. So you have to have things right in house, or you're going to be exposed a lot more in this conference, obviously, than you were in the Big 12. Now, I think for me personally, I'm going to go and do. I think I do 7.5,
Okay.
just because I don't want to push. I'm going to win or I'm going to lose here. And I think personally, I would probably lean towards the under, but I do think Oklahoma goes out and is committed to making a big time OC hire, committed to giving Bill Bedenbaugh the time and respect he deserves to get his unit right. And with that, man, like you just mentioned, that defense has potential to be pretty dang good next year. And so, therefore, improve the offense at all. Stop turning the ball over, committing silly penalties, and that's going to go a long way. That in itself, probably, you pick up another win or two, and you got a chance with what you've done this year to still win 6 or 7 games. I know it seems unlikely, but I'm with you. I think that's a fair number. You might have a future in being an odds maker, Dave. That's pretty spot on. I had that question planned pre-show, and you're almost right there where I was. So.
Well, and I have to say, though, you fans that would say that's not the standard, I get it. You're right. That's not the standard. Oklahoma's 8 wins, 7 wins, making a bowl game, scraping by to make a bowl. That's not the standard. So if you want to say that and that's what you believe, you are dead on. The ball is accurate, and that's where the program is right now. And that gets back to if they decided to rip the Band-Aid off, I can't argue with it.
And I don't think that you would disagree in saying that there's not really a coach out there who can turn around, come into Oklahoma, and by fall of 2025 have this team, this version of OU football winning 9 or 10 games.
No.
So I don't think you're digging at Brent Venables when you place that over under win total at 7.
No,
yeah, they are right. They are exactly right. But they will have to realize it does take time, not to make it about my team, my side. But 2021 Texas went 5-7, did not have an offense of any kind. We had a young Bijan Robinson, and that was about the only bright spot. 2022, we go 8-4. We add a Quinn Ewers. Now, he was not perfect by any means, but he did improve throughout that season once he got back from injury. And so 2 years later, we're coming off back-to-back double-digit wins. It's a process, all right? There are a lot of people that wanted Steve Sarkisian gone in 2021, 2022. There are a lot of people that wanted Coach PK, the DC. They wanted him gone after an absolutely terrible Texas defense in 2021. It's going to take time. Have patience, Oklahoma. If it is Brent Venables, that's your guy. Ride with him, trust it. He's going to make an OC hire. It's inevitable. A big OC hire is coming for Oklahoma. Now, how quickly can they get things right on the offensive side of the ball? Because, like we said multiple times now, the defense has the writing on the wall to be pretty good again.
Yeah.
Dave, any other random topics, comments, questions, concerns you would like to bring up regarding your Oklahoma Sooners?
Just, when I've been asked this question the last couple month especially, what's best for Oklahoma, right? Is it to oust Brent Venables and start over, or is it to give him one more year? I'm so torn on this answer because you're exactly right. I think the best shot for Oklahoma to win more games next year, in my opinion, is to keep Brent and make a good OC hire and try to pair an offense with this. And I think they got a chance to win 7-8 games. The longevity of the program, though, with just everything that we've discussed being, you see more issues than just the offense. When you're football guys, if you know anything about the game and you watch in-game management under Brent the last 3 years, you see things that are concerning.
Yep.
So I'm torn. If you want to win more games, the best, the best decision is to keep Brent next year and then see what can happen. If you want to start getting the program as a whole turned and going the upward trajectory to get to where it needs to be to play for championships. Yeah. So anyway, that's a tough question to answer right now. It's just been a weird season, man. One that I don't think any OU fans, of course, saw coming, and they're having to deal with it, and talking about it and watching every week has just been puzzling. not getting any better on a lot of areas. So going to be an interesting offseason, man. I'm with you. Things can happen against LSU and Alabama. I don't think they do. I think Oklahoma loses both those and misses a bowl game for the first time in a quarter century, and that's a big deal. So we will see what happens at the end of the year.
Absolutely, man. And hey, I'm for your sake, Dave. I'm hoping y'all just spent the last whatever amount of practices on your bye week. I don't know the practice schedule and how y'all handle your bye weeks. I hope that you just committed to some form of run game and figuring something out because LSU, let me tell you right now, they can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to run fit. They can't stop anyone. So if you can, I know you don't expect it. I don't expect it in the bottom of my heart. I can still see the avenue and how Oklahoma can give Alabama a little bit of a fit and then parlay that into maybe a win versus LSU. And hey, Sooner, be patient, man. If you're not hearing the names that you want to hear regarding an OC hire or a potential head coaching hire, Dave brought it up before the show or in the comments on Twitter. Sometimes the boring hire is okay. Nobody wanted Steve Sarkisian at Texas. Nobody. I'm such a fan that it was like, whoever we have, he's hired. I'm rolling with it.
Right.
But still in the back of my mind, I was like, what the hell are we doing here?
Well,
Nobody wanted
working
Sarkisian.
out all right though.
Mike Elko. Okay, I played golf with a couple Aggies last year in College Station. I always work in College Station for November and December of every year. And I go play golf with a few Aggies the day before Jimbo Fisher was fired. Everyone knew he was going to be fired. And I am telling all three of these gentlemen, like, hey, like, if you just bring Mike Elko back, he is going to have your defense righting so fast. And nobody wanted him because it's not a splash hire. It's not the
Right.
big name, the sexy name, the name that every eyeball, every media company in the world is going to comment on. Like it's not that. It's okay. You don't have to have Nick Saban, come out of retirement or Urban Meyer come out. Those things aren't happening.
Right.
Okay, Lane Kiffin, he's not going to leave Ole Miss and come to Oklahoma. You don't want Brian Kelly, but just have patience. Joe C knows what he's doing. He's a hell of an athletic director. Knows ball. Okay, that's the thing. It's not just out there kissing babies, shaking hands, signing checks. Passing the hat. The guy knows ball. He genuinely does. And got caught up a little bit in the emotional hire of Brent Venables. A lot was going on. A lot of people were scorned. Have patience, okay? I don't want you to be back. You will be back, okay? It is coming, okay? My entire lifetime, well, since I could ride a bicycle, you guys have been relevant in football, very relevant, okay? And I don't think I'm lucky enough in life for that to change for more than a couple of years tops, okay? Have some patience. If it's a boring hire, see how it goes, okay? You got what you wanted with Brent Venables. That was a hire you wanted. Maybe it still works out. I will say this, and I told Dave the first time that we talked on this show, I believed that Brent Venables, the longer he was there, the better he would be at Oklahoma because it meant that he was recruiting the type of player on the defensive line that he needed to win games in the Southeastern Conference. That was my knock. Can he recruit that type of talent on the defensive line to Oklahoma, to Norman, to win games in the SEC? He's shown the ability to bring big bodies in, okay? I did not expect the offensive struggles, and it's not over yet. Okay, so there's still time. We'll see what happens. And this is big news, brother Dave. There is a new candidate on the board.
Let's go, Tom Herman, baby.
Tom Herman has been fired from Florida Atlantic University a day after his good buddy Stan Drayton was fired from Temple. Curious to see what happens with Tom Herman. I just made a joking tweet saying Tom Herman, the Texas offensive analyst, just because.
Yeah.
Oh, full circle is fun sometimes, but.
Well, you know what? That name, being up at the franchise, talking to all the sports radio guys, that name's been floated around. If something happened, like there are worse guys to coach an offense, right? I think OU saw up close and personal year 1 and 16 or game 1 and 16 down in Houston when Houston whipped their ass, just out physical them on the field, and that was Baker Mayfield and Joe Mixon, P. Ryan, and really good offense, and he got the best of them then. And
who was the Houston quarterback in that game?
Boy,
I know they had freshman Ed Oliver.
I can see him. He was number 1.
It wasn't Cam Ward, was it? That was so long ago. Yeah, it was another
He was number 1, and I think he moved to a wide receiver later in his career.
They had Jalen or Duke Catalan
Oh, yeah,
at
man.
tailback, 27. He had a big game in that one.
That quarterback just ate OU apart that day. I'm
But to your
undefeated.
point, Tom Herman, man, he can coach an offense. Now, here's another comment, Fancy, you made earlier. Thanks for being here, by the way, Fancy. Means a lot. Tom Herman did not have that CEO type ability at Texas. It didn't seem to be. Maybe at Houston, he was only there a couple years.
Greg Ward.
Greg Ward. I knew it was another short name. Dang it. Game Ward and Greg Ward. It's so funny. Yeah, Greg Ward was a player, man. A lot of fun to watch. But they beat Oklahoma. They beat a Florida State. Tom Herman can scheme up an offense. Tom Herman went undefeated in bowl games at Texas. Okay, it's the Alamo Bowl, the Texas Bowl, and was it the Texas Bowl again? No one cares. Okay, but what does that tell you? Okay, Tom Herman over time can scheme. He can game plan. Okay, he really can put together a terrific plan in the 2018 game with you guys. The Power Ellinger game where Ellinger ran for
Yeah.
feel like 75% of our snaps. Little Jordan Humphrey was a big part of that game as well, Colin Johnson. But I like Tom Herman as a schemer. Okay, it's what Fancy said. It's the CEO, the delegating, all that type of things. It might not just be for him. And there are a lot of coaches that make excellent coordinators. Everybody knows this, and then absolute shit head coaches.
It happens on the defensive side as well, that's not a knock to anybody, dude. It happens to if you're a great OC, that doesn't mean it translates to be a great head coach. If you're a great DC, the same exact is true. I mean, when you're just a coordinator over your position on a team, over your group on a team, that's what you got. When you're a head coach, there is so much more you have to consolidate and micromanage and put people in the right spots to then go off and lead their spots. And you're over all of it. Not everyone is cut out to do that. And that's not a knock. It's just we have different strengths as human beings. Some are better at it than others. And, that doesn't mean that because somebody is a fired head coach, say like a Dan Mullen, he doesn't know offense. That doesn't mean he can't be inserted back as an OC and have a top 10 offense. Same with Tom Herman. So you can't get caught up on being fired as a head coach because it didn't work out, but they're a once really good coordinator on either side of the ball. It just means that maybe they're not cut out to be a head coach. Not everybody is.
I just received a pretty excellent reply in a tweet, and so now I have to pass this to you, Dave.
Okay.
Oklahoma head coach Jimbo Fisher. Oklahoma OC Tom Herman. Oklahoma quarterback Connor Wigman. You down? You signing up for
that? Look, whatever they decide to do, I'll talk about it and watch it and hop on the radio and talk about it. The fans, I don't know if they would dig that or not. I think for OU's sake, probably not. Again, I think I hate to keep going back to the name, but I've liked him for so long. Glenn Schumann down at Georgia, man. Somebody give this guy a shot to be the CEO of a college football team. Give him a shot to find the right OC to pair with his defense and see what can happen. I think, same as I thought with Dan Lanning, it would work out pretty well, and it has for Oregon. So, yeah, I don't know. Teams just stop getting hung up on, well, he was once here, or we have a really good feeling about him. Stop. Who cares? Go get the best available for it to run your football team.
That's all it is, man. And with that being said, Dave, I wish you best of luck to end this season. We'll have you on again as we get ready to, talk about all of these big time decisions that are coming up in Norman. Thank you for being here, Dave. Plug the franchise for me. Go ahead and let the people know where to find your content, brother.
Yeah, 1077 The Franchise. Check it out at Franchise OK on Twitter. I'm all over the place there. I'm going to be on at 3 o'clock this afternoon on Matt and Tyler's afternoon show. In fact, yeah, that's why I got to wrap up and head up that way. Dave, what about Will Stein?
Oh, there we go.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
Not the big flashy, sexy hire. And
I mean,
I'm with that. I like it.
Yeah, I know that you dig the boring hire, and I get why. Just because it's a big name, woohoo! Yeah, UCLA thought they were all right because I got Chip Kelly, the splash hire, and that doesn't always work out. Look, there's so many intricacies to this, and why something works or doesn't work. So much more than just a name.
Absolutely.
What someone's done at somewhere else really doesn't matter. It's how do they fit in culturally? I can't believe I just said that because that's kind of what OU, hangs their hat on. But it matters. It matters when they get there. How much time do they give the offense versus, we can go over this for days. It just, you have to have the right ingredients mixed together in a bowl at a program when you get there for it to work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That doesn't mean your next stop you're going to suck or you're going to succeed. It's just kind of a fire the dice type thing and see what happens. But anyway, back, 107.7 The Franchise. You can also hear yours truly call high school football playoffs on 1520 AM out of Oklahoma every Friday night while we got the playoffs rocking and rolling, Cord.
Yeah, second round of the high school playoffs, both down here in the great state of Texas and up there in Oklahoma. Probably a few more blowouts coming, this week, but we'll have some great matchups all across the state, or both states, rather. And with that being said, shout out the Winsboro High School Red Raiders, East Texas, a 3A high school. My little brother on staff there. They
Nice.
10-1 now. They've lost 3 ball games in the last 3 years, all to the same program though. So all roads are leading towards a potential, year 4th round rematch with those 2 schools. So I'll be watching a little high. I'll be trekking a long ways to do it, but I'll be watching a little high school ball as well on a Friday night here soon, Dave. But thanks for doing this, Dave. Always a pleasure talking to you guys. If you would, please throw a like on this video. Dave is the best. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Just a handful of followers away from 500. And got a lot of fun content coming up. Once again, I've slowed down a little bit, but not because of desire. Just a busy guy in the months of November and December. But we still got stuff coming on. Thanks for being here, everybody. It means the world. Dave, sign us out, my brother.
All right, Cord. Sign up for this guy. The subs. He needs to get to 5 for the love of God. Everybody sign up and get the guy there. He deserves it. Always a pleasure to hop on with you, Cord. We got more ball to talk about, more ball to watch, and I'm sure I will text you later, man. Sayonara, buddy.
Have a good one.